Hello. Um, I am wanting to talk a little bit about something that is um, pretty dear to my heart. So, that is people that are struggling. Um, there was a hashtag I started earlier this year called Ferocious Love. And the reason I did that was because I was recognizing that there's a lot of people who are not feeling very loved. They're feeling like they have to do something or that they have to perform in order to receive love. And to me, as somebody who has spent at least the last 20 years, if not longer, really learning how to be a friend, this is something that's very important to me. I've got a list of things that were written on my phone and a piece of paper that tells me what's going on so that I can stay on track. But basically, the master plan was to live like a millennial bohemian, but with the working class mindset. And that to me means when you think of um, basically hippies. So, yeah, a hippie mindset is free love, free access, free just a bartering back and forth. So it's my goodness and your goodness, and the way that you pay it forward or you get what you give, like that kind of headspace. I grew up in a Christian home though, so I've also got the history of Christendom, so like growing up in church and stuff like that. And so for me, the thought process is, have I learned to love? And as I'm looking around, I notice that people are generally focused on making money or they are focused on having a family. And um, when I look online, there is this thing, almost a propensity to project a really positive image online. And that bothers me only because there seems to be I don't quite know how to say it, but it's almost like a veil of pretending that everything's okay or making things glossy or things like that. So there is actually a diagnosis for people that is now called complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So I joke around and I call it complex performance track stress disorder. But it is this feeling that nothing is real, that you're not real, that what's happening to you is not real. They call it depersonalization or derealization. And it's almost as though everything that's happening to you is in some kind of simulation or something like that. And I find that weird because almost anybody I know who's done um, drugs like MDMA or ecstasy, or like basically when I was a teenager, everybody was going to raves. I didn't go to them, so I didn't really have that input. And as a child, I didn't have the input of cultural norms like TV because we weren't allowed to watch TV. But there's lots of things that I missed out on socially that in conversations with people, they come up and I'm just kind of like, oh, well, that's weird. So one of the things that comes up for people that have done a lot of weird, uh, I say weird drugs, but those drugs that are, were normal then for dancing and having energy for a night out was that people recognize that they're robots or that everybody's a robot and that this is just some giant big game. And it makes me think of a Gerard Butler movie or the one where everybody was like some kind of, they were some kind of Sims thing. I don't remember the name of the movie, but it also makes me think of the movie called Idiocracy, which is just this normal run of the mill guy who ends up being fast forwarded to the future, a future where the intellectuals in the academia crowd decided not to have children. And so then they are watering their plants with Gatorade, wondering why they're having a food crisis. And that might sound silly, but I kind of feel that way when I look at any sort of news outlet or anything like some kind of news commentary. It just sounds like a bunch of silly people arguing about things that don't matter. Um, And I know that sounds really trite, but this idea that there's an us and a them for everything, that there has to be a polarized view, that doesn't sit well with me.